So the purpose of this is to just give you a record of what we went through in class. So I've got Blender 2.82. I'm going to go Shift A to add a plane. I'm going to turn on my screencast keys so you'll see what I'm pushing. Hopefully, yep, there we go, text down the bottom there, and I'll just make the font size a bit bigger. Right, so that I think isn't big enough, so I'm just going to scale that, S to scale, pull it out. You can make it as many times big as you like. That happens to be 11 times bigger. GZ, pull it just up a little bit so that the ground floor isn't in the way, nice and easy. In this version of Blender, it's automatically unwrapped, but you can push, go into Tab to Edit Mode, U for Unwrap, and then just choose Unwrap. But it's already unwrapped. If you click UV Editing, here you can see if I highlight it, it's got the square around the outside, so it's already unwrapped for us. We're going to jump into Shading. It's got these other windows over here. You can hide them if you want to. I can never be bothered. I just make them a little bit smaller. So at the moment we're in a very grey world. It's not particularly helpful. No, actually the lighting is the material preview, so it's this lighting. You just can't see it. So quite often I jump into rendered mode and we've got this one light here and it's going to shine around all over that surface. This plane currently, if you have a look on the right hand side, has a default material which you can't actually see. But if I go plus, that creates a space and I choose the default material that's kind of hidden, now you can kind of see the details that are there. Doesn't matter a great deal, you didn't really need to do that. If you wanted to start from fresh, you could either hit minus, you could either hit new and then you've got material 1, or you could hit this new button and same thing. So you can make a simple color, click the base color, pick a color, and there it is. You can do what you like that way, but like in class, I'm going to show you how to plug in all of the image textures. Now, I'll just quickly switch to here. I personally use polygon.com. You have to pay. I think it's worth it. I think their textures are amazing. If you are looking for free stuff, you can get free stuff from textures.com. I think you get a certain number of credits per day. But again, I think if you want high quality stuff, you're better off just paying. There's various different payment methods, but I'm not being paid to do this, so I'll shut up about that now. So anyway, back to where we were. I'm going to make this a texture. I've got heaps of textures bought from Polygon. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to add in image textures in this area. You can either click add, but I'm not much of a button clicker. I'm more of a shortcut person. So Shift A, and of course my bloody keys have turned off. Screencast keys, turn them off and on again. There we go, we can see them. So if I go Shift A, and then I go search and I type image, then I drop it. What I see in a lot of tutorials is people will minimize this. I hate that. It makes me make mistakes. So I make it a bit wider, and I'll show you why I do that shortly. So I'm going to click open, and I've got all of my textures in a folder here called textures. All of these have been bought from polygon.com. Might have downloaded one or two free ones, but no big deal. So the one we used in class was some wood. I don't really think it matters which one I use. I might use, in this case, Metal Brass Brushed 2, assuming that I downloaded it in Metalness. Yes, I did, so that's good. So it's in Metalness. Now, a trick for saving time is to add a favorite. So there it is, Metalness. That's probably a terrible one to go to. Probably take that Metalness, subtract that one, and then go Metal Brass Brush, and just quickly add that as a favorite so you can come back to that easily without having to navigate. So inside of here are all of my images. So I'm going to open the first one. COL is color. That's the naming convention Polygon uses, and you'll see it's the Metalness workflow. That's why it ends in Metalness. So I open the image. Now I'm going to click, you'll see left mouse and red writing up the top there, and I've got this white connector. As I bring it over to the base color, it changes to gray, and I let go, and that green box that was there is now gone. Now this is brass. I can't see any of the brush marks on it at the moment. Hopefully we will soon when we add in some roughness and so on. But that's generally the color of it. Once you put the color on, it doesn't really look that good. The reason I like to make this wider is so I can see the entire file name. You'll also see it across the top there. Quite often students who are beginning make little mistakes, and it's the easiest way to check. It's a bit like proofreading, I suppose. Now you can go Shift A, search, image, texture. That's one way. But then you go open, and then you have to go, if you're smart enough to use favorites, then you can go in there, but you still got to dig in and get back to that place. So the next one I'm going to use is the Roughness Map, open image. And I'm a bit pedantic here, but I think it helps if it all looks the same and looks the same each time, that you don't get confused. So anyway, this metalness map is going to plug into the metalness. Now if I just drag that metalness across there, then it suddenly looks a bit shinier, a bit more like metal, but we're going to have the metalness map be in charge of that, which is pretty much the same. It's just brushed brass. The next thing we're going to get into is roughness. Now this part, color space, I just forgot something. This is not contributing to color, it's data, so we go non-color. Didn't make much difference. It does further down though. So here's a time saver. So I've clicked this and I go Shift D and I've duplicated. You'll see a number 2 here and here because it's a duplicate. But the time saver really comes when I click open the folder, and it goes exactly to the place where I want to go to. And that just saves a bunch of clicks. So I'm going to use the roughness map, and I'll go open image. And for some stupid reason it goes back to sRGB, so that needs to be non-color. And this is a roughness image. If that says gloss, you have to do an extra step, and I'm going to go from there to there. That tells it where it's rough and where it's not rough. Now we can start to see some of the brush marks. If the texture you've got, oops, I didn't mean to do that. If the texture you've got is not a roughness map and it says gloss, then you'll need to go and add an invert node. Shift A, search, INV is usually enough, and you grab this, and when you hover over the top of it, the line goes white, and that's inverted it. I don't need to do that, so Command Z and delete that. But if yours says gloss, you need to put an invert node in there. The last one, slightly more complicated, is we put in a normal map. So again, time saving, Shift D, drop that down. It's all the same width, and I don't have to bother about all that stuff. Click the open folder, it goes to the right place. So I've got 2 normal maps. One is 1.8 megabytes, one's 9.9. This one's going to take less memory. I'm going to use it. And I cannot take this yellow input into this purple input. It won't like it. It just doesn't work. It starts to go really strange. So what we have to do, I just clicked and pulled that off. Shift A, search, and just type normal. And I got 2 kinds. I want the normal map, and I'm going to drop that in place. So I go color to color, so I can go yellow to yellow, fine, and then I can go purple to purple. And the normal map, I can increase and decrease. And essentially, again, you'll see some weird stuff going on over here because it's defaulted back to non-color. That's really annoying. Oh, sorry, to standard RGB. If I go back to there, non-color, there it is, starts to look proper. Better than my English anyway. And you can increase the strength and decrease the strength, but if you zoom out, bit more realistic, you can increase the strength to something like that, so you can really see some brush marks. That's a perfectly clean brass, and to be honest, I think that it's quite good, and good for maybe my level 1 students or maybe my year 10 students. But what we're going to do is we're going to put in some extra stuff over the top, maybe some wipes or something like that, that's going to affect the roughness and potentially even the color. So I'm just making a gap there, so I just pushed G and moved around and clicked. So I'm going to go Shift D to duplicate. Now I'm going to push X, and that's got nothing in it, so I'm going to go open, and maybe I'll go to there and up a bit. So this is my folder with all of my textures in it, and I want some kind of a grime or wipes or something like that. There's stains liquid that could do. Smudges large, that'll do. Smudges 3K, and I've got two variants. I'll go with variant 1 and I open that image. Now if I plug that into the color, you'll just kind of see those are what the smudges look like. But what we want to do is we want to, can contribute to the color, but we're going to do this one on the roughness, so I've made my gap in the wrong place. We'll have it contribute to the roughness and the color too, I think. So anyway, this is our smudges large overlay, and this is going to be non-color. So we're going to mix this. I can't put 2 in, because if you do that you'll see it just disappears, and the roughness is now from the smudges and not from the wipes. So we want a bit of both. So we want a mix node. Shift A, search, mix, and we're going for mix RGB because it's mixing information from 2 JPEGs, 2 RGB JPEGs. Now when I drop that in, it defaulted that one to color 1. I'm going to prop that one into color 1, and it's going to swap it. So you can kind of see a bit of both happening now, and depending on how much you want, you can drag it all the way to the left, and that's all this smudges. If you drag this one all the way to the right, then it's all this one, and you can bring it back to somewhere in the middle, and you just do some having a bit of a look and see what you like. I wouldn't go all the way there, and I wouldn't go all the way there. I'd probably do it just enough so you can see. Now I'm using the Eevee render engine at the moment. Cycles is better. So if you really want to have a look and see what it looks like, you jump into cycles. You might even jump into your camera view and even go render image, and that's going to take a bit of time. It says it's going to take another 3 minutes. I'm not going to bother with that, but that's how you can go about doing some test render imaging. In the interest of saving time, here's one I prepared earlier. So this is one from a year or 2 ago. Here is a terracotta pot. Apologies about the seam showing to the camera, but in this particular one I used terracotta pot from Polygon, and what I did is I mucked about with some settings which I'm about to show you. So if you have a look at all of these different looking terracotta pots, it's actually the same texture, and what I did was I changed the strength of the normal map. This row here is all strength 1, this row here is all strength 5, and the third row is all strength 10, and you can see it looks really dented. The scale, all of this column is scale 1, that column is scale 5, and that column is scale 10. So I'm encouraging my students to sort of make some adjustments to the scale and the normal strength to then decide what looks best in the context of what you're making and so on. Now, I made this a year or 2 ago, and this is what the old stuff looked like, but really it's the same. It's just kind of grayer. I'm going to show you how to add this stuff in here. Before I move on, acknowledgements. That was Terracotta Clay Worn 001 from polygon.com. The brushed metal that I used was also from polygon.com. So anyhow, you can see it's the same but different, and I've also got an overlay just there. You can make it affect the color as well, so you need a mix node. I'll Shift D, drop that one in there, and I'll take this one and prop it over there, and I think you use, I think it's screen or something like that. Overlay perhaps, overlay, there we go, overlay. So it's just taking a little bit. I want to come out of the camera. So that's affecting the color ever so slightly, not a great deal, and you can adjust how much it affects the color. So you'll see lots of effect on the color, no effect on the color. So maybe you just kind of have a wee look. So these smudges is having a little bit of effect on the roughness and a little bit of effect on the color. So those are the kinds of things that you can do to make it look a little bit more realistic. There's a bunch of other things that you can do too, but my target audience for this video is my year 11 students. Before I go on, I just make a little kind of like proofreading. This is the only one contributing to color really. This one here is non-color, it's black and white, so it doesn't really matter that it's not non-color there, even though it is contributing to color. The math stuff that's going on here takes care of that. Non-color, 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 and everything else we're just checking. Base, color, metallic, roughness, normal. So that's that job essentially done. The part that we had in the terracotta pots with adjusting the normal strength you can adjust here. So that's just a simple number that you change. You can click and drag, you can click and type, push enter. The last part, the mapping, you want it so that you could probably see some of these brush marks but not have it look terrible. One of the most used plugins, I'm clicking edit preferences, you come to add-ons, in the search button type N-O-D-E, Node Wrangler. Mine's already on. If yours is off, it'll look like that. If it's on, it'll look like that. It's just a tick box. Make sure it's ticked and then you can X out. So the shortcut key that I'm going to use is I click on this one and I go Control Shift T, excuse me. Control T, I was right the first time, I just didn't push the right button. So these are coordinates. Now I need to reconnect this, or not reconnect, but connect this to everything that is the metal, just not the overlay. So drag and connect, and drag and connect, drag and connect, and I'll just move that down so that it's in the same area. Drag and connect. The other cool thing about this plugin is you can see what each part contributes. So if I click that one, I think it's Control and Shift at the same time, and I click it, that's what the color map contributes. And you'll see that it's kind of made a little change over there. I Control Shift click that, that's the metalness. It's pretty boring because it's just brass. If you do something like bricks, it'll look a whole lot more interesting. Control Shift click that one. That's the smudges. It's not really showing a great deal. There's the roughness map. Again, it's a pretty smooth surface, so it's kind of a boring surface that I chose. And I can Control Shift click that, and that's the normal map. And again, that's pretty boring. It's not much there. Using something like bricks or the terracotta would be a whole lot more interesting. Didn't mean to connect that to the smudges. I'll make its own one. Control T, and I'll take this and bring it out over here. And to make it go back to normal, you click this Principal BSDF and Control Shift click that. And so that's all of those things together. Now I can change the scale. So the idea here is the size of everything. So at the moment the scale is 1. X and Y do something, Z doesn't, but I click and I highlight all of them, and if I push 2 and go enter, then essentially it is applied 2 times over. Now if you increase that number too much to say 10 or 19, I accidentally typed there, you can't see any of the brush marks. You might as well have just made something really simple. So maybe we'll go 0.25 and you'll see the brush marks a whole lot more. You have to make the judgment call based on the size of what you're making. But I think something like that could work, especially if you zoomed out. It looks a little different depending on how you move the light around and so on. Other things that you might do is you might decide that the smudges, I'm just going to disconnect it from the color. Just having a look there, those smudges, can I even see much? There's really not much showing in those smudges. But you can change the size of the smudges as well because it's got its own map. You could make it repeat 5 times over. It does get a little bit repetitive, but it's quite hard to see with that variant. You could also come back and try the other variant. That's the white on black rather than black on white. And then we can Control Shift click. And that's changed. Let's put that back to non-color data, and we can plug that back in over there if we want to, so we can have a look and see what it's contributing. So that's contributing this, and it's weird because the scale's too big, but if you made that back to 1, you'll see that's what the smudges and smears are contributing, and I think that color variant is probably much better to use, and you can kind of see what each of these do. If you click those together, you'll see what they contribute together. Not a lot going on there, but there is, you can see a pretty good fingerprinty looking smudge just there. Yep, you can do some other things to increase and decrease the strengths. So more, less, there's various things that you can do. I think that looks too dark because the overlay is not really working particularly well. You can put in some color ramps and so on. So if you're in my class, ask me about it and I'll try to show you, but I will make this as big and as readable as possible. So all of these are image textures. These are mix, even though they say different things. It's a mix RGB node. Shift A, search, mix RGB. There it is. Those color boxes disappear when you plug something in. This one is a normal map. It's exactly like it says. That's a principal BSDF, exactly like it says, and that's the material output. So you can recreate that simply by Shift A, search, and type whatever the word is at the top. I hope this helps for your texturing. There's loads of texturing videos that are out there. It's just that when you jump into texturing, this one's actually not a bad video, but when you search, I mean, 11 months old, it's okay, but you start looking further down and they start becoming years and years old, and they're old versions. There are some really great channels out there. I'd recommend Grant Abbott's channel. I would recommend Blender Guru. There's a whole bunch. This guy Default Cube does a bunch of really good stuff as well. There's heaps out there, but I made this one for my class. So yeah, this one here from Grant Abbott is good, but again, it's the older version and it confuses people. So watch some other videos. You'll pick up all sorts of tips and tricks. I'm constantly finding some new thing that I'll get from a video and go, I wish I knew that earlier. But yeah, that's basically it from me.